A working class vocation is not something to be less rigorous or formational. A working class vocation most certainly does not mean academic attainment is unobtainable. A working class vocation does not mean that we accept that we are subordinate to privately educated clergy or bishops. And a working class vocation does not mean we need to spend unnecessary hours defining what it is to be working class or from a working class setting. You can if you like, but I know I am working class. I don't need you to tell me. Working class people know who they are. They do not need to be means tested or interrogated for validation. If you are sat here wondering if you are working class or not, there is a fair chance that you are not. Nobody in this synod can change what we are or who we are or where we are from. But I would just like to remind you, synod, where the apprentices of Jesus Christ came from. Andrew, Peter, James and John were fishermen. Matthew worked as a tax collector. Simon was a zealot. Jesus called the working class to be his apprentices.
Until we are led by the all sorts, the ragtag wonder of full humanity, we are a partial body. I hope the motion requests will bring nuance and care to what it means for working class people to flourish in the Church of England, not least by attending to the riches of that very term, working class. And those of us of working class heritage don't want your pity or your sympathy. We want your solidarity. We want to be seen for who we are. We want to be understood and not stereotyped, and not be boxed in by cheapened versions of Christianity that do not speak of the deep love of Jesus Christ.
Then we are called, I believe, to challenge the primal impulse which seeks to impede access to ordained ministry for those who, by reason of a perceived socio-demographic characteristic, or to name it, class, find themselves on the other side of the divide.
And they said, you must come back on Saturday night because that's karaoke night. So sure enough, we went back on Saturday night. The pub was absolutely packed, far more people in the pub than had ever been at the mission events during the week. And we were encouraged to sing a song. I got up and sang a song on the karaoke. I won't tell you what it was. And when I'd finished singing in this packed pub, the DJ over the other side of the pub said to me, over the microphone, he said, "Why do you sing songs that nobody knows?" And I started explaining, well, I grew up in the 70s, that's my era, that's why it was probably a bit of ABBA, that's why I chose that. And he goes, no, in the church. Why do you sing songs that nobody knows? And he wasn't talking about the hymns that we sing. He was talking about our language and our culture.
Thank you to Father Alex for securing this debate, and I want to warmly encourage the Ministry Development Board in their future reflections, for I recognise so much in this paper which is true and honest, from how finance is a barrier, a major barrier, and often continues to be throughout ordained life if you have come from a working class background.
Don't support this because you are doing something nice to poor people or to working class people, because actually God comes from the places which are the small, the unseen, the marginalized. We've heard that earlier on in terms of the one who comes from Bethlehem, from the littlest clans. You will gain something if you receive people as they are and don't try to change them into your image.
Mark Tanner, Chester 12, although in this context, perhaps more relevantly, the chair of the Ministry Development Board. Can I say how profoundly I welcome this motion and honour you, Alex, in raising it.
I welcome the essential work being done, not least in the Let Justice Roll report, and I just want to pay tribute to Sharon, a different Alex, and Rebecca who wrote that. We in the board and I personally are committed to cooperate with Alex in this work and with the recommendations on pages 7 to 9 of that report. And indeed, thank you, Alex, for mentioning Chris Rogers' vital work as well. I'm not sure if this is the first time a lead bishop in a particular area has seconded a PMM, but I was proud to second this PMM coming before you, Synod.
You have to have true and proper working class people in positions of influence who haven't been shaped by the system. But you can't get them in those roles if you can't get the first foot on the first rung of the first ladder in the first place. If we want England to have the gospel, that includes areas of poverty, and you have to have leaders from areas of poverty who are seen and grown and recognised and listened to.
I only started going to church in 2012 and didn't have a clue what anybody was talking about when I walked through the door. I didn't understand the language. I didn't know when to stand up or sit down. And nobody in my church spoke like I did. Even though it's in Newcastle, it's very rare to hear somebody at the front of a church in Newcastle with my accent. Part of my job means that I get to go around and preach at different churches across the diocese. People come up to us afterwards and say, Pet, it's lovely to have somebody that talks like us up the front. Now, obviously, accent doesn't say much, but it does to those people in the pew. And I think that this allows us to start to consider about how those people in the pew get a voice and get enabled and encouraged in their vocations, of which they all have. And believe you me, people in working class communities may have a deeper knowledge and love of God than some other people in more privileged circumstances. They live in pain, in hunger. They live without things that other people would expect to have. They live knowing that they go to bed and their kids are hungry. These people know God. And these people all have a vocation to lead others to Jesus.